We do river days where I'm literally fishing, I'm bouldering on the river, maybe like shallow water bouldering on the river. Bring your pad, bring your rod, you're fishing, you're grilling, you're climbing, like, it's great.
Alex, why is Las Vegas the best place to be a climber?
It's so great. The climbing is incredible, obviously. There's a lifetime supply of hard routes, big routes, adventure routes, trad climbing, sport climbing, bouldering, whatever you want to do. There's even ice climbing in the winter and skiing in the winter. But it's so good. You can literally climb outside any day of the year.
Yeah.
Like there's basically never bad weather. And even in bad weather, you could climb at other places if you were motivated enough.
You grew up in California. You spent a lot of your life there. Like at this stage, does Nevada feel like home to you?
Yeah, I think Vegas is definitely starting to feel like home. I mean, partially because I now have a family here and I'm like raising a family, it feels homey and that we're like building a life here. But also I think that Vegas never felt that dissimilar to me than Sacramento where I grew up because it kind of has the same suburban hell. Like a lot of the things that people hate about Vegas, like the strip mall nature and just like suburbs sprawling forever, is how I grew up in California. So I'm kind of like, this isn't any worse, except that the climbing is world class and it's way cheaper and it's easier and there's a great airport. I'm kind of like, man, Vegas is so good.
You obviously travel a lot. You go to many places. Do you ever find it interesting that people are always so certain that they live in the best place? Because, I'm pretty sure that Seattle's got you beat. I mean, maybe not in terms of rock climbing, but
dude, are you kidding? Seattle sucks.
Yeah, I know. But right? I understand that. It's like Stockholm syndrome, right? Where you're like, no, my kidnappers, totally, they're good. I promise.
Well, I think people, just settle in a place that they're well suited for. And then they come to love. The thing is, because if I lived in another place, I'm sure I would like it there too. I mean, a lot of that is human nature. It's just and general disposition. Are you optimistic person? In which case, you'll find all the things you love about the place that you live.
Today, we're doing a round table, and I want to prepare you. Everyone on this call, besides me, is going to try and convince you to move to the South. Who are we talking to?
We're talking to photographers and climbers Andrew Kornelak, Colette McInerney, and Karen Lane, who are each fixtures in the Southeast vibrant climbing scene.
We're going to talk community, perfect rock, bad conditions, and catching hogs.
Whatever that means. I'm Alex Honnold.
I'm Fitz Cahall.
This is Climbing Gold.
I'm Colette McInerney. I am a climber and filmmaker and photographer, and I live in Oak Hill, West Virginia, just outside Fayetteville in the New River Gorge.
My name's Karen Lane. I'm also a climber and photographer, and I live in Fayetteville, West Virginia. Originally from Richmond, Virginia.
And I am Andrew Kornelak. I'm a filmmaker, photographer, climber, living in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, originally from Ohio.
And you guys are all I would say, diehard Southeast climbers. We acknowledge at Climbing Gold that we have a bias towards the West Coast. I think the good place to start is there's some truly incredible rock, some truly incredible community in the Southeast. So why is Southern climbing overlooked on a broader level? It doesn't quite seem like it's on the sprinter van touring circuit. So many climbers move out west. Is it underrated? Why is this?
I think a lot of it is geography. In the South, everything's kind of hidden by geography, covered in kudzu or down in a holler or something. You don't see big mountains and big rock faces 20 miles, 30 miles away. You see housing tracts and junkyards, and then around the corner, there's an amazing cave or something, So I think a lot of it is kind of hidden by geography. And the culture that's built up around it is very affected by that, I think. Everything here is on private land. So to get to the climbing, you kind of have to have gone up to someone's front porch with a 6-pack of beer and, made a relationship. And those kinds of relationships are kind of hard won and not easily, not readily shared, I guess. So there's a lot of secrecy around Southern climbing, I guess, historically. I think those things kind of combine to make it a much more hermetic sort of word of mouth scene here. And for that reason, I think it gets overlooked.
And the weather.
The weather sucks. Well, you get pretty dialed into like the season for every boulder field, every crag. Like, oh, Chattanooga's like late season, Rumbling Bald's like middle of winter, Boone is, kind of gets too cold by December or whatever. So you really get dialed into all the different little mini seasons for different places. So if you have that intel, you can really like string together lots of days. You just log more miles in your car. This region, you could probably drive in a day. That whole route around the outside of that region, you could definitely road trip that in a long day. I mean, from where I am in North Carolina, Chapel Hill, all the climbing is within 2.5 hours probably. And then you get to Tennessee in about 5 hours. And then Chattanooga is about 6.5 hours away. And that from Boone to Chattanooga is like probably 4 hours. And those are the two like main focal points of Southern climbing. You have Alabama, you have Georgia, up into northern Tennessee, but there's literally like hundreds of places to go climbing in that region that are not the new or the red. So I would say North Carolina is really characterized by what you might find more out west. Big granite walls, 1,000-foot cliffs like Whitesides and Looking Glass and things like that. And a lot of other big rocks. I think like the biggest rock on the East Coast is there, Laurel Knob. It's definitely bigger than any of those places. So a lot of granite climbing, a lot of like walls, trad stuff, and of course a ton of bouldering. And then Chattanooga area, Alabama, North Georgia, Southern Tennessee is like sandstone gold, just like dozens and dozens of boulder fields, crags, sport climbing, trad climbing, places like Tennessee Wall, right, that have like everything.
T-wall and a bunch of walls down there, sport walls now that are, a lot of them are on private land and they're opening them up slowly. But yeah, just tons of bluffs. And yeah, it's great. There's crack climbing. There's like the quality of the boulders is, people say it's like Fontainebleau. I haven't been to Font. Probably not as much of a concentrate.
Font is actually a great example of a place like the Southeast. If you went to France, you would pass by the forest of Fontainebleau and, it just looks like a forest. But there's like a lifetime of bouldering there. It's obviously a much, much bigger boulder field than most boulder fields in the South, but a lot of southern boulder fields are a lot like Font.
So real question though, all the bouldering areas in the Southeast that are kind of like Font-esque, do they have the perfect flat landings and like sandy forest and everything, like just like Font?
Yeah.
Just less beat out.
Just don't tell anyone that. Mm-hmm. Don't publish that.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No, it's awesome. It totally is. It's super similar to Font.
Minus the density. Because I mean, Font is like insane.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is as dense, like Rocktown is as dense as Font, and I think so. I mean, it depends on where you're going, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just at Font you have like how many sectors,
Like 100, like 150, like who knows?
A typical boulder field in the South would be like 2 sectors or something. It's worth of boulders, 3.
Huh.
But you have, dozens and dozens of them within striking distance of like the nearest town. So
it seems like there's a long history of kind of like some of the, our country's best climbers getting like sucked into the Southeast. Like I think of like Chris Sharma, kind of going through and setting like Witness the Fitness, or Daniel Woods, or even J-Star like going out in the Full Metal Brisket right out there. Like, is that how that happens? Like basically like do some of the best people kind of get sucked in because they know somebody, or like there's some incredible routes that have been put up. What do you guys think? Or is there like secretly just everyone's just crushing there and they just like occasionally make the rest of us feel better?
Yeah, I'm curious. I feel like some of that could be related to land stuff as well. Like you just don't spray about things that can be sensitive. Out west, there's a lot more, at least historically, a lot more land that you can just walk on and no one's going to question you. Around here, it's like you kind of don't spray about stuff because you're not supposed to be there in the first place. And
yeah, totally.
So it's like a chicken and the egg type thing. It's hard to know.
Yeah, no, I mean, the first time I was taken to like Little River Canyon, which is this crag in Alabama, it's basically blindfolded. I was driven there, told not to tell anyone how to get there, just forget the directions, throw them away, burn them. And like literally people are like, if you send anything hard, like don't talk about it. If you do a project, don't talk about it, because Why? Well, access is a little sketchy, and these, we're not supposed to be bolting here or whatever, and that's like the very typical Southern experience, at least back in those days, 90s and 2000s, when access was still a real big problem. Yeah.
Is that still the Southern climbing experience?
Some places.
Some places, for sure, for sure. I think
Everybody's nodding.
No, yeah. I mean, Karen, I don't know. Maybe you can speak to like the new area a little bit, but a lot of things have changed. I think there was like a huge sea change in the last 30 years from word of mouth, top secret areas to now like a complete focus on access and land conservation, land preservation for climbers. But there's still a ton of areas that are in the old school.
Yeah, there's a lot of like philanthropy happening here, which I don't personally necessarily agree with, but there's a lot of folks like rich people buying land, but allowing climbers to climb on it, and us having like these like under the table or like maybe even a contract saying that climbers can climb on their property. So there's a lot of that there. I think that happens at the Red. Like there's literally whole crags that are owned by like families, right? And then you just have to sign a contract or like a waiver to go climbing there. And we're negotiating a lot of that at the new too, because folks don't want to get rid of their private property.
But is the new national park, or are there tons of crags that are outside of park?
That's the thing is there is a national park and there's tons of climbing there, and then there's tons of climbing surrounding the park, and arguably some of the better climbings outside of the park. So that's why we have like a lot of problems there.
And access to even stuff in the park can sometimes be through, or like maybe older access or some other traditional accesses that people were using was maybe through a private land on some parts. So the park itself is protected, but there's a lot of private land literally right around it.
And Colette and Karen, you know this because you're photographers as well, but as photographers, you kind of have access. You have the keys, right? Because you're bird dogging these guys who have access, and they've worked out the access, and you're often among the first people to go in there and check it out, and sworn to secrecy. But photographers are the ones that sometimes fuck everything up, right? I mean, so many crags in the South have gotten closed because a photographer took a picture and published it in like Rock and Ice or something and just blew the place up.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that is a very common story back in the day. So you gotta be careful.
Yeah, I have a lot of what I think are sick, unpublished photographs that I will publish someday when the crag reopens or opens for the first time.
Will you guys get in trouble for talking to us about Southern climbing? It sounds like Fight Club.
Definitely.
We haven't told you anything.
Yeah, right. No one's crossed any lines yet.
We'll be back with more after the break.
Alex, what's your favorite piece of North Face gear?
Right now, I think my go-to is this new sun hoodie, and it might be a sample, so I think it's coming out soon, but I've literally been wearing it every single day, and I actually do all my adventures now with no shirt on, just this sun hoodie, and it's so light and it's breathable. It's like it has a little half zip down the front. I actually told the athlete manager to send me 12 of them, basically, because I was like, I think I'm going to wear this for the rest of my life. Like, I think this is the reason I'm not going to get melanoma when I'm old. It's like I'm going to wear this sun hoodie all the time, because I wear the hood up all the time too, and it covers my whole face and neck and ears and everything.
Yeah. Does it ever, the attention to detail, the thoughtfulness in the products, does it always sort of amaze you, like what they come up with?
Well, I think the thing that amazes me is how it consistently gets better. And the thing is, 18 years ago, I got product and I was like, this is so great. I love this. And it's like, now I'm getting product and it's still great. And still, it's just, now it's a little bit lighter. Now it's a little more breathable. Like now it's, better weatherproofing, better materials. Like it's just the constant improvement, I think, has impressed me over time. Because jackets now are just way better than they were when I was a kid. The North Face has you covered. Discover gear designed to take you to new heights at thenorthface.com.
Dude, you ran up a mountain today, and I feel like it's like 1,000,000 degrees in Vegas.
Yeah, I did run up a mountain today. And actually, it's slightly less than 1,000,000 degrees today, but it is incredibly hot in the desert. And yeah, I have actually been drinking LMNT on every run. I've been trying to do one run a week and one mountain adventure week, and I always take LMNT in my water. I normally do 2 soft flasks, so 1 liter of water, and I split a pack of LMNT between the liter. And honestly, I think it's a for the amount that I'm sweating in the desert, it makes it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a smart way to make sure that I don't bonk.
What flavor did you put in your bottle?
I use any flavor really, but I have been using the lemonade salt this summer. It was a seasonal flavor, though now it's just been made permanent, which is great.
Because it's the best. It's the best one for sure.
Yeah, but honestly, I think it's nice to mix them up, because if you're using the same thing on every run, it starts to feel a little, I don't know. It's just nice to have different flavors. Get a free 8-count sample pack of LMNT's most popular drink mix flavors with any purchase at drinklmnt.com/climbinggold. That's drinklmnt.com/climbinggold. Find your favorite LMNT flavor or share it with a friend.
It's all just a little bit dark horse, right? Does that make you more proud of the whole thing?
I know what you're talking about. I don't think that's not me. I know people, I think there's a lot of people that came up in the climbing here. Definitely. That's definitely part of it. I would say from an outsider perspective.
I think that one of the amazing things about the change in the South is that you have this community that basically went from complete secrecy to the very opposite in a span of like a couple decades, and did it like grassroots totally successfully, like solved all their own problems. But I think the South still has that same vibe, a lot of the same like traditions and ethics are still here. And I think that's a good thing. And I think part of it is because of that influence of secrecy, like that slow burn, like it happened very organically, right? It's not like the South completely blew up and is like all over the map now. It's like that slow burn has helped keep things kind of sane, right?
Pretty freaking slow burn in that I've never been to Southeast and I've been a professional climber for my whole life. It's sort of like, dude, I don't know if it can burn any slower. Like it's still totally off my map.
No, but that's awesome, right? I mean, that's what climbing's about. Like if I go climbing today, I have been to a lot of Southern Crags. I know a lot of people, and I still go to places and I'm like, well, shit, I don't know anything about this place. There's no guidebook. I got to find someone who knows. And then I go with them. They show me all the routes, and it's a fucking amazing day of adventure, right? To me, thinking about never having been to a whole region of the US and thinking about going there, that's adventure. That would be really exciting, right? Like all these places are completely unknown to me, and that's all that matters.
I'm kind of curious. So for each of you guys, I mean, this whole like keeping it hidden, keeping it unknown. I mean, the thing is, when you do that in a place that's hot and humid and wet, it just overgrows. You know what I mean? Like you need a certain critical mass of traffic to keep the cliffs like actually climbable and not just totally gross. And so, I mean, is there any of that going on in the South where it's like somebody develops some new crag, but nobody knows about it, nobody goes, and it's just not that good because it never gets clean enough, or it doesn't stay clean enough?
It means every generation can have the same first ascents. Right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like, dude, no one's
that's
touched
a very
this
positive way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people that moved here, and I will say that I've seen that a lot more, which I never thought was a thing, but a lot of West Coasters moving east. I think some of that is cost of living. I think it is about crowds and scenes, and climbing, having climbed a lot of places, I'm kind of blown away how many days I spend alone in West Virginia at a cliff, like at what I would consider a world-class wall. We could talk about like the reasons that is, but that's kind of a unique experience these days. Definitely seen some people from the West Coast come over, spend a winter, and they're like, I found this boulder, I found this thing. And everyone's like, no, you didn't. Like someone definitely climbed that, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But yeah, you're right, Alex. Like if no one's there and it kind of overgrows and they clean it, they get their ladders, they have this whole thing, like they just found this amazing, V9, and everyone's like, kind of giving them the pat on the head. Like, good job, yeah. Bro. Glad you had a time.
It's like a very Southern voodoo to the science of trying to figure out if this problem has ever been done before. Like it's probably been done by 2 generations at least. But it's completely covered in moss and lichen, and like, you look very closely, take a few tests, And
there's a lot of ethic around boulder and root cleaning as well. Like, I don't know, maybe it's that way out west too, but you're really selective. I think I can speak maybe for the majority of developers there isn't like an ethic to how you clean a boulder, how you clean a root, like what pieces of moss you leave, what like toupees of ferns you leave, like what lichens you brush and don't brush. Like, because lichen has like such an aesthetic quality to a root, right? If a root has like green lichen all over it, why would you take that away? I mean, look at Madagascar. People go there because the rock is incredible, but it has like huge streaks of green lichen. Where the South is so similar. We have like gorgeous different color variations of lichens and mosses, and that's like what I get a lot out of climbing routes that are just beautiful. And that's like a big ethic of like, what are you cleaning? How are you cleaning it?
I mean, what is the ethic around that, do you think?
Clean as little as possible.
It's like if you just brush the 3 holds and then the rest of the thing is covered in moss. It's like,
yeah, you do that. I mean, I've climbed plenty of slabs where the entire slab is completely green, and you're feeling underneath the moss to see where the holds are. You're brushing literally the exact holds that you need and nothing else. And then the boulder is still completely green, and it's awesome. And maybe you missed a foot, whatever.
Oh, I just love the West Coast.
I love what Karen just described about putting your hands under moss to find the holes. I've totally done that so many times. Like, it's like a little glove, like, where's the, oh, here it is.
I mean, I've done that too, like on expeditions in Africa and things like that, climbing like grass walls, like, or like climbing tepuis in South America.
Yeah, but you've been there. Like, you've been there. You haven't been here yet,
and
Alex,
you didn't actually have to go so far to experience that. You could have just come.
I'll fly to Georgia. I'll fly to Alabama.
You won't.
That's the thing is, I'm so impressed by people who do. Like the people that do show up to the new in November who say that they're from Vegas. I'm like, I'm so excited to talk to them. And it's like a new person in town. I'm so interested. I invite them to like my house for dinner. And that's the Southern way. You're stoked to meet new people and like show them things. And I used to work at the climbing shop in town, and folks would come in from out west who have just never been there before, and they don't know where to stay and they don't know what to do. And I like wrote up like a whole itinerary for them. I booked people Airbnbs like at work, like figuring out where they need to stay and what they need to do. And it's fucking awesome. And I'm impressed by them. I'm impressed that they're stoked and like open-minded and willing to come here. And typically when they do, they're stoked. And sometimes they stay.
At some point.
Up until that moment, I kind of felt like maybe these 3 people were on this phone call right now to basically make sure that the South remained under wraps. Like, it was
I thought about saying that it was shitty here and everyone's racist and don't come here. And I feel like maybe that has something to do with it. I meet a lot of people out west who I tell them I'm from West Virginia, and they're like, ew, I'm so sorry. And not to like, we don't have to get into that, but yeah, I get a lot of that. And I'm like, no, it's actually awesome. And people are really sweet and cool and class conscious. And it's just a bunch of working class people doing their best. And a lot more climbers on the East Coast than you would think. They just don't spray about it.
Do you feel like the community is tighter in the Southeast?
Absolutely. 100%.
Why is that?
I think there are fewer people climbing on the East Coast maybe than the West Coast. I think a lot of the climbing areas too, a lot of climbers that live in the Southeast actually do live in the towns surrounding the climbing. They don't live in like necessarily like DC or Philly or Richmond. Like they do live in Fayetteville, they do live in Boone, they do live in these small towns where the climbing is a 10-minute, maybe 5-minute drive. So that like breeds community when you live in a small town.
Yeah, and I would argue it's still like a slightly outlier culture community. Like if I think about out west, like a recreating community is like part of the ecosystem. Whereas like growing up in Nashville, it's like outdoor rec is like what? Maybe there's some hunters, there's like you went camping a few times, but it's not like I didn't know like hardcore skiers growing up, like in there. And so when you do find climbers or you find this thing, which is growing, right? And especially in these certain areas like in Chattanooga and stuff, but it's still like not quite like a go-to community. So I think when you find each other, it very much makes this like, oh, we do this thing that's like quite different. Maybe like how it used to be even out west when climbing was more of a counterculture vibe. I'm not saying it's exactly that, but it's still unique enough that it would be like not just anybody you're walking by. Whereas, the places out west where you're assuming everyone's tried it at least,
Yeah, and it's the South. Everyone's super friendly, I think. Everyone wants to chat. Yeah, they want to chit chat. They want to know who you are and what you're about. And I get that. Yeah, that's the culture. And so
where are you from originally?
Yeah, where are you from?
No, where are you from though?
Where are you? Yeah, exactly.
We'll be back with more after the break. So a few years into my van life journey, when I was still very young and poor and living in my car, my grandma moved into the senior living community type of kind of nice old folks home. And whenever I was in town, I would go and do Sunday brunch with her. And it was this just insane feast with the waffle bar, the omelet bar, the fruit bar, like all the different stations. And as a 23-year-old man living in a car, I would just go in there with like a bucket basically and just load up and just eat everything. I was so psyched.
Did they have Kodiak Cakes?
They probably did. It was a pretty nice spread.
Now you obviously don't have a breakfast bar, but do you guys eat Kodiak Cakes?
Well, now I have a wife who makes them for our children, so it might not be quite as opulent of a spread, but it's still pretty delicious. The beauty of Kodiak Cakes is that they're way higher protein, so they're just more filling than a traditional pancake. And they just seem a little heartier, feel a little more wholesome. I mean, if something's called Kodiak, you can assume it's kind of hearty.
And what other products are you guys eating?
There's the oatmeal. That's a go-to breakfast for the kids also. There are these insane little dessert cups that my wife loves. Microwavable brownies. It's just, they're the definition of opulent treat. We try not to keep too many around or else we eat them all. Keep your wild ones going with a protein-packed breakfast that will keep them fueled for big days. Find Kodiak products at your local grocery store. They're the ones with a bear on the box. Or learn more at kodiakcakes.com.
All right. When you're climbing at the home gym, who controls the music?
Generally, whoever's in the gym first gets to seize the Bluetooth speaker and take over the music. But if I don't like it, then I'll take it away.
What triggers Judge Alex to be like, nope, not happening?
I try to be patient for anybody's music. I'm like, oh, they're here, they're listening to their thing. But ultimately, it's my garage. And I'm kind of like, I want to listen to rock. I basically always want to listen to rock. So I'm kind of like, no, I'll just put on what I want because it is my garage.
What kind of speaker do you use in the gym?
We use the Turtlebox Ranger, which has 3 days of battery life, and it's lightweight, durable, very robust. The kids have not broken it, and easy to connect to via Bluetooth. Designed for the outdoors, Turtlebox makes durable and portable Bluetooth speakers in a range of sizes so you can take your music anywhere. Find out more at turtleboxaudio.com. I want to hear each of you guys tell me some kind of story that epitomizes Southeastern climbing. Like the quintessential, crazy characters, weird crag, bad weather, whatever. Or, incredible rock and perfect conditions. Like what do you think is a story that epitomizes Southern climbing?
I have a climbing day, like a good like climb, and nothing crazy happened, but like that same day that I was taken by blindfold to Little River Canyon, I was with a buddy of mine, Greg Kotkamp, who was like one of those undercover crushers from the South back in the day. And he already had seen a lot of the canyon because as a sort of high-end climber, it was a little easier for him to get access to like the new projects and stuff. But on this day, we just basically walked the cliff line, which is like 10 miles of cliff line or something in Little River Canyon. And we would just walk along and like look up, and if there was a bolt, we would just start climbing shit, And I remember he put me on one climb and I was like, what is this? I don't know. If there's a bolt there, just go for it. So I'm going for it. And I'm clipping bolts as I go up. They're all old and manky. And I get to like the third or fourth bolt. And I started kind of paying more attention to the bolts. And I clipped this bolt and the hanger is like super loose. I'm like, dude, this hanger is loose. He's like, just tighten the bolts. No big deal. And I clip it fine. I get to the anchors. I come down. And as I'm cleaning, I realize like the first 3 bolts that I clipped didn't even have a bolt on them. They were just, hangers sitting on a stud, It's like because those guys they reuse gear and stuff, and like they put something up and move on to another route or something. You're kind of expected to bring your own hardware sometimes, a wrench and a bucket of bolts or something. But so that's like a very typical, at least back in those days, a very typical experience at a crag, which you think, okay, bolts, it's a sport climbing area, but no, it's not. It's like, it could be a deadly adventure if you're not careful. But more importantly, like later that day, we stayed at this place, Split Rock, which is like this house. It's called Split Rock because it's on just this giant plateau split by a huge crack. A bunch of people were there, got pretty drunk, and we were stumbling around, just looking for rock or whatever. And I got kind of lost and got lost in the labyrinth of like cracks and boulders and stuff up on that plateau, and ended up in this cave. And I just crawled in this cave, and I was like totally out of my mind. But all around me were these like points of light inside this cave, and like these. Later, I found out they were glowworms. You just look up and the whole place is lit up by these tiny little green lights. I don't know how long I stayed in that cave. I probably passed out or something, but came back and told everyone. No one believed me. I couldn't find the cave later, but that was like, to me, like such a typical experience at a Southern crag. You don't know where you are. You're led there in blindfold, have a big adventure, hardly, climb at all, but everything else was like the real deal.
So does anyone have a quintessential Southern climbing story that makes you want to climb in the South? Those just don't exist. Like, what about, after weeks of rain, you get that splitter day where it's like crisp and blue and perfect, and you send your bouldering project and it feels
that
incredible.
Happens all the time. We don't talk about that. That's like borderline. That's boring and borderline.
It's bragging.
That's bragging.
Yeah.
It's a little braggy.
Yeah.
Like I got good conditions, and I happen to have I wasn't too tired. I think what happens a lot is you get the good conditions, but it's like 5 days in a row, and you got to go. There's a lot of anxiety climbing, so it's like now you got to go 5 days.
Yeah,
you're gonna work yourself, but those might be the best 5 days. You don't know. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Something I am willing to brag about, and maybe Colette, you can speak to this too. Sorry, Andrew, maybe you can't. But honestly, it's like the girl scene here, not just at the New, but in the Southeast in general. Like, I feel like I know personally, maybe like most of like the harder female climbers, because they all travel, they're all stoked, they all talk to each other. A lot of times, if you see a girl move to town, you're like, oh my God, we have to go. Come over to my house. Let's chat. Let's like be climbing buddies. And you all pull up to the crag at the same time. You all have the same projects or whatever. And I don't know. There's like a big like lady scene in the Southeast, and everyone knows each other. And it's not competitive at all because there's just no room for that.
Yeah, it's cool. And I think this place, especially the New, which gets like the rep for really reachy and for tall people only and all this stuff. I think historically there wasn't a lot of women here. And right now there's like a really great crew. It's super fun.
It's funny listening to you guys talk. I keep thinking about Australia. Mm-hmm. Like Andrew, that story with like bring your own hardware and all that. Like, in Australia, like a bunch of the routes, you have to bring your own bolts, but like bring your own hangers, basically. It's like carrot bolts. It's like kind of jank. But talking about conditions and just all this, I'm like, oh, the adventure of it. I'm like, oh, it kind of reminds you of climbing Australia, and just the fact that it feels really far away. And I know Alabama's not as far as Australia, but it kind of feels about the same to me. You're like, oh, geez.
I mean,
like going,
even if you fly into Charleston out here and you're driving from Charleston Airport, it's like an hour and a bit. You'll start hitting these back roads, and you're like, what is going on? When my dad first came to visit me, he's like, wait, we were sure we took some wrong turns or we were off in some whatever. And it's like, nope, that's the neighborhood. That's it. And you're just like down in these, I don't know, just crazy twisty turns, areas that just, they almost like can't be developed because of the topography. It's wild.
As we wrap this up, can you guys give me an elevator pitch for the South? Like if you had to sell the South, like give me something. Give me the 2-minute, like why would people climb in the South?
Some of the best quality of stone that you'll ever touch. When it's good, I would say it's better than any, like, I lived in Vegas for a long time. I know good condies there. I would say that it can be even better because of the quality of the rock and like some way the dryness of the humidity work. I don't know what it is, but it's like Velcro, incredible. And beautiful forest with the colors in the fall that you just do not get that color vibe out west. You just can't. So those are my top.
All right, Karen, sell me.
I'm assuming people rock climb to challenge themselves. Maybe they don't. Like, maybe you don't. I don't know you. But if you want to challenge yourself rock climbing, the Southeast is a great place to do it.
Because
right?
it's raining on you and it's covered in moss.
Yeah. And
Is
it makes
that
climbing harder, right? Like it's hard to climb when the humidity is 90%. Challenge yourself. Like, it's fun. It's cool.
Is that the challenge that most climbers are looking for?
Maybe not. Then they shouldn't come to the Southeast. I really do think it's a challenge. I think that's what makes it fun. Like, that's why photographing here is so fun, because it's really, really hard. And when I go out west, I'm like, oh, I can take a great iPhone picture anywhere. It's easy. It like does it for me. But in the East, I'm like, oh shit, I have to like time everything perfectly and suss every detail to get this one shot. And, you know, Colette and Andrew definitely do too. Like, it's way more challenging and full value. Also, the Southeast has this is a tangent, but the Southeast has like incredible deep water soloing that I think rival Mallorca. I went to Mallorca this year and I was like, damn, I wish I was at home. We have some of the sickest deep water soloing in the whole world.
There's good limestone deep water in Chattanooga too.
Yeah.
Now I will get in trouble for talking about that.
Yeah, that's really
That's underground. You're not supposed to say that. The new, we can talk about it now. Now that the Summersville Lake is officially a state park, we can say that you can rock climb there, that you can officially deep water solo there. But you know, like 90-foot sandstone cliffs over like fresh water, super beautiful blue water.
Do you want to climb 90 feet above water? That seems like maybe slightly too high.
You can, or you can traverse for 2 or 3 miles if you want, you know? You can traverse for 2 or 3 miles, like 4 feet over the water. And then your buddies on the paddleboard with the beers behind you, you know? Like, there's that too. That's like a huge thing. A lot of people come to the new in the summer. They seek the South in the summer just for the deep water soloing because it is cheaper than going to Mallorca. And it's sicker, in my opinion.
I feel like Karen's got a pretty good pitch there. Alex is intrigued. Andrew, what do you got?
Yeah.
I'm going to say the vibe, the community. I mean, obviously, we have boulders that rival Fontainebleau. We have walls that are like Arapiles, you know, sandstone. The weather's a little iffy, but to me, it's like the vibe, the community, the people. I mean, look, climbers will climb anything, right? I mean, climb buildings, climb like structures in downtown Denver. Why? You know, it's not because there were great conditions that day in downtown Denver, right? It's because you were with someone who had the right feel, the right vibe, and it was just cool. You know, it's cool to climb that shit. And if you come down here, we have that in spades, but also you're going to link up with the coolest people and have a good day, you know, and you'll come home with stories of Southern rock that you can tell everyone and they won't believe you. But yeah, it's really the people in the community that is pretty special.
Hearing you guys talk about the Southeast to me really reminds me it's like the quintessential locals area where like if you live there, it's great. And there are a lot of places like that around the world. I mean, I think climbing in the UK is kind of like that, where it's like there's a really good community, there are good gyms, and there is tons of rock, but conditions are challenging. But it's like if you live there, you can climb a lot and have a great time. And I'm sort of like, you know, if you live in Chattanooga, it sounds like life's pretty good. But I'm kind of like, I don't know if it's quite good enough to move to Chattanooga. You know, it's like...
Well, it depends. I think a lot of people live in the Southeast because that's all they can afford. I know I live on the East Coast because I know I could not afford to live out West. And it's a great... I love that. I love that, like, the quality of my life is exponentially better because of that. And I think a lot of folks like genuinely can't afford to live out West. And so we live where you could get a biscuit for $2. And my rent is $300 a month. Like, it's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't live in San Francisco for that.
No.
You can live in your van in a parking lot for that.
Yeah, that's the thing about living out West, though, is that if you're full-time climbing and you're living in the van, it is pretty easy. You basically just like live for free everywhere.
Yeah, that's another reason a lot of folks don't visit, is because there isn't a lot of good camping, honestly.
Yeah,
we don't have BLM. There's no van life. We don't have BLM. I mean, we have lots of Walmarts, like lots of Walmarts.
Churches.
And honestly, most people park in churches and Walmarts. And
I've stayed in a ton of Walmarts.
yeah, I think that's a huge reason why people don't visit, is because it is really hard to stay.
Best part about the Walmart is the guy that greets you every morning when you go in to use the bathroom. You know, you're like, good morning, another day taking a dump in the Walmart. I've done that when you're in the same Walmart for like a month. And you're just kind of like, good morning, Bob.
I think we're all kind of like funny people to ask about Southeast climbing because we see it through a different lens. Like, sorry, but like we do, like we are climbers, but ultimately like we're like documenters. So I feel like I'm in the scene, but from afar. Like I'm in the scene, but I'm looking in a lot of the time. And so I feel like I can speak greatly to like the atmosphere and like the vibe and the visuals, but I can't, I feel like I'm just documenting the scene. I'm not like in the scene. Yeah. I feel like I could speak really freely about like Southeast or just East Coast photography or East Coast media, like maybe some like bigger picture points than just purely talking about rock climbing. Like I love rock climbing, don't get me wrong, but I also live here because there's lots of things to do other than rock climbing. Like so many incredible sports to do. Like I know I go rafting like every Wednesday, right? Like if it's raining, you just go rafting. If it's raining, the river wave is in and everyone goes surfing, like mountain biking, trail running, go to the dirt track, right? Like do all the West Virginia stuff too. Go hop on your dirt bike. I mean, we do river days where I'm literally fishing. I'm bouldering on the river, maybe like shallow water bouldering on the river. Bring your pad, bring your rod, you're fishing, you're grilling, you're climbing. Like it's great.
Every climber I know who lives in the South for some period of time becomes a fisherman.
Yeah, you're catching hogs all day. Slamming hogs. Awesome.
Yeah, see, this is quintessential Southern climbing. I'm like, see, now I'm slightly canceled. I'm like, all right, as long as there are other things to do on your rest days and there's like good multi-sport activity, I'm like, all right.
Andrew, I just want to jump back quickly on touch on the book, The Spare These Stones. It's got great stories. It's got great imagery. It really, like, when you look at it, it feels like this sort of work of art. There's a lot of in-between moments, sort of, it's not just like all like dope climbing photos. Like, why did you choose the images you chose to sort of represent your home?
Yeah, I mean, it probably has a lot to do with everything we just talked about, trying to convince Alex to come out to the South. I mean, there's only so much you can show about the climbing here before getting into the weeds, so to speak, very literally. I've just always been more interested in geography and culture and people than climbing, even though I've been climbing for like 30 years on now and mostly in the South. But so I think when I chose a lot of the photographs, a lot of them are portraits. So I just love portraiture. I love like seeing faces, seeing the landscape like reflected off faces, I guess. I just think for all the reasons we've just talked about, it's a book about the South is a book about culture and about geography. To me, the climbing was like an entry point to this book, which is about something else. It is a book about climbing, but that's really like the entry point. You're going to see some rad climbing in here. You're going to see some amazing routes and special rock, and the stories will reflect it too. It's a lot more about geography, people, culture, and it's about like I said before, the sea change in a scene, in a subculture that I witnessed in the last 20, 30 years. That is pretty remarkable, as a community, like solving problems and coming up with solutions to like big problems that these people saw coming 20 or 30 years out, and had a lot of foresight and a lot of sort of like progressive thinking about the community. And these are people who already had the keys to the castle, so to speak. They already had access to their own crags. They could have kept it very secret and just focus on themselves. But I think a lot of these characters in the book saw these access issues, as was happening all over the country, coming from miles away, and were very forward-looking in terms of figuring out ways to solve those problems. And all this happened, and still today, the South remains pretty much an enigma to people like Alex, who's climbed all over the world and has never been to the fucking South. So that's what this book is for. This book is for you, Alex.
Is this book to encourage me to come to the South, or so that I don't need to come because I can just see it through the photos? Be like, you know what? It's like just as good as visiting because the images are incredible.
Thanks, Andrew, Karen, and Colette, for doing your best to convince Alex to come visit the South. Andrew's book, Spare These Stones, is available for order wherever you get your books. It is an awesome book. It makes me want to go there. Hey, have you heard that you can get Climbing Gold ad-free? I know a few of you have been asking, and so this year we've made that an option. We're calling it Climbing Gold Unroped. Get it delivered to all major podcasting platforms. We're grateful to our sponsors, but we also get wanting to have something without ads. Sign up, link is in the show notes. Climbing Gold is created by Duct Tape Them Beer. Alex Honnold is our host. Our production team includes the talents of Skylar Perwins, Marco Seiler Gonzalez, and Evan Phillips. Our creative director is me, Fitz Cahal. Today's music by Quincy Coldwater and Brendan O'Connell. Will Taylor handles our ad sales. Our executive producers are Jonathan Retzik and Ben Endy for RXR Sports, and Lacey Hendricks and Becca Cahal for Duct Tape Them Beer. Thanks for listening.